Welcome back, everybody. Today I am joined by T. Priceton. She has just written and is about to release a brand new spicy mafia romance. It is called Matteo. I actually have it right here on my Kindle. And I was so lucky to be able to read an advanced copy of this book, and I absolutely loved it. So reached out to T and saw if she could join me. So thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is my first, I did a podcast one like last weekend, but this is my first like face-to-face type of interview. So I'm excited.
Awesome. Yay. Well, I'm super pumped. Like I said, I read this book seriously within like 2 hours of receiving the arc. We got the emails, and I had just seen this book all over my Instagram. So many people, I guess it was just popping up. And I was like, you know what? I read a lot of mafia romances. I was like, I'm going to try and get the arc. And if not, it's okay. But as soon as I got it, I started it and finished it that day. It was so good. So I'm just super excited to talk about it.
Oh, thank you so much. That means honestly a lot, especially as a debut author. That means the world to me. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. So, first off, this book is about our two main characters. So, Mateo is obviously our male main character, and then Luxton is our female main character. And without giving away any spoilers, her mom goes missing. So and so gets kidnapped, and then Luxton also gets kidnapped. Turns out to be Mateo, who is just this beautiful mafia man. And unfortunately, he thinks that marriage is nothing but a business transaction. And he does force her into marrying him. But, she's okay with it because she is willing to do anything to save her mom and get her mom back. So that's all I'm going to say about the book. But it has a lot of twists and turns. There were a bunch of times where I was seriously speechless at this book, and I was just like flipping the pages as fast as I could. I love their story and their love story. And it was just, I read a lot of mafia romances, and it was amazing.
Well, thank you so much. You did a way better like synopsis than I would have ever done. So I appreciate you taking the lead on that because I would have been like, I probably would have clammed up and been like, it's a mafia romance.
Well, it's
Just
so
read
funny.
it.
I literally just did a TikTok like recap of this book, and I was like, you guys have to read this book. Put it on your TBR. It comes out September 25th. So I actually like had been rehearsing that script in my head.
Yeah, no, I'd be like, here, let me pull up the blurb and I'll just read it for you guys.
That is so funny.
I'm
My
not good at selling.
Oh my God. Well, it's so funny. My friend that I do my podcast with, we always fight over who has to do the synopsis because it's so hard to put a book, especially a book that we love so much like Mateo, into like two sentences. So it's always the hardest part. But before we get into the book, I want to know a little bit about yourself. What's your day job, or is writing your day job? So tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I live in Colorado. Writing is not my day job. I'm a stay-at-home mom and I also work for a roofing company. So I do roofing company during the day, watch my kids during the day, and then at night, I do writing. My writing, I can only ever get it done at night because I cannot get anything done with my children. So I usually do like social media stuff during the day. Sometimes I can get a little content creation in, but again, it just depends on my kids and then my day job as well.
Yeah.
So,
I can't imagine having I think every author I've spoken to has a full-time day job and multiple children and writes at night. And I'm like, I don't know how you guys do it. And I am just props to you because it seems like the hardest job in the world.
oh yeah, no, honestly, I don't even know how I do it.
No.
Like, I sometimes I don't do it. So,
Yeah.
it's a lot, but I really like writing, so it makes staying up later at night a little easier.
Yeah.
Because we all like sleep, but at least it's something that I enjoy doing, and I'm not doing like something terrible and trying to stay up super late at night.
Exactly. Well, that brings me into my next question. Like, what got you into writing? As you mentioned, Mateo is your debut novel, and it was fantastic to be a first novel. So, what got you into writing? What was your inspiration?
So I feel like a lot of people can relate with this. I don't love my day job. It's not, the worst thing ever, but it's not something that you're passionate about and that you are just waking up every morning to some excitement and
Yeah.
going to the job. But I've been reading romance since I was like 13 years old. I don't know if that's a little young, but it was like 13. I was introduced to it by my mom, and it was the Harlequin Presents, that Harlequin
Yeah.
Presents line. So she
Yeah.
kind of got romance reading when I was young. And then, you know, you kind of go through your phases of reading and then you kind of give it up for a little bit, you go back to
Hmm.
it. Situation. So I went back to it pretty heavily after I had my children, and I was just like not super happy with, you know, my career and where I'm at career wise in my life. And one night I literally was just like, well, maybe I should. I love reading. Like, let me just try writing.
Why
And
not?
it's so random. I mean, I think a lot of people start out being readers of the genre, and I feel like that's kind of a really good segue into writing. So I guess it's not random in that sense, but in the sense of, you know, English class. I hated English class when I was in school. I've
Yep.
never taken a creative writing class in my life.
Wow.
So in that sense, it was random, but I just wanted to do something that I thought was fun and
Yeah.
see if I could turn it into a career. And so I'm starting that, and we're gonna see how it turns out for me.
I love that for you. I think that is so amazing. And I don't know, we'll talk about specifics in Mateo, but I think the inspiration behind writing in general was perfect because, like you said, most people don't love their day jobs, and it's hard to find a niche genre and like dive into it like this. There's a couple other writers that I follow in the genre. But I think, and if no one has told you this yet, I will be the happy first person to tell you that I think this is going to be your full-time career. I think you really have something amazing. Like you're writing. I never have the highest hopes with ARC books because you just never know what you're going to get, and there's not a lot of reviews. But when I was approved for this one, I was so excited. And then when I read it, I was even more excited because I put in my review, I was like, I'm dying to know what book number two is about and book number three. And I hope that you have book number two and three, so I just can't wait.
Yeah, I planned Mateo to be book one in a three-book series. And I'm sure since
Perfect.
you've read the book, you know what book and two and book three are going to be about. So yes, those are definitely going to come out. They will be coming out next year. So I'm so
Oh,
sorry.
amazing.
Bro.
No, it's good
I,
anticipation.
so I know I feel so bad. Like a lot of people have like DM'd me and they're like, okay, so when are we getting book two? And I'm like, I actually originally planned to have the entire series, at least the first draft of the entire series done prior to putting Mateo out there.
Yeah.
But I just kind of hit a wall. And so I was like, I had a lot of things that I had to do and I wasn't able to do it. And I really wanted to put Mateo out there. So I was like, well, let's just go for it and see what happens. But
Yeah.
um, now I'm like, at least I know it'll be finished next year. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry to anybody that has to wait.
I mean, we're excited to read it, but I think the anticipation, like I can't wait to read it. How long, and I didn't put this on my questions that I sent you, but how long did it take you to write Mateo?
So the first draft I wrote in about a month, and then, that was in January. So I wrote the
Wow.
first in January, you know, and then I sent it off to beta, or I had a developmental editor that I was working with as well.
Okay.
So I did those edits, and then I sent it off to beta readers. I took a lot of breaks, obviously, since we're in September now, and I'm actually
Yeah.
finally putting it out there.
Yeah.
I took a lot of breaks just because to be honest, like writing a book is no joke. The editing process was writing the book, the first draft wasn't that bad. I was like, okay, I did it in a month. The editing process was a lot just because you
Hmm.
have a lot of self-doubt when you're reading your words back.
Yeah.
I'm definitely one of those people that was pretty insecure about what I was putting out there. And then
Hmm.
that you're going to hit publish on something and that you're kind of opening yourself up to criticism from people was very scary.
Yeah.
You don't know, like people don't know your writing, people don't know your storytelling. And I really don't have like any friends really that like in real life friends that read the genre.
Yeah.
So like no, I have two people that I've told finally, and literally one of them I just told like last week. I was like, oh, by the way, I wrote a book.
I wrote a
Um,
book and it's amazing.
yeah, and so and they they have not read it, but they're really excited to support me on it. But I just
Wow.
didn't have, you know, the confidence really. So I think that's what really made editing difficult for me, and that's why I put it off for so long was because
Mhm.
I wasn't sure I was ready to put it out there to people.
Yeah, and that you're not the first author that's told me that the editing and working with publishers is it's not for the weak. And I have had a couple authors tell me that it completely discouraged them, like put stops in the track from continuing to write. So shout out to you for getting it done. Like, I think that's pretty quick, especially to have the first draft done in a month. That is crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty. I knew what I wanted to do with the story. I mean, there was one thing, there was kind of, like the plot twist that I was kind of tinkering with. If I wanted, there was like three different ways I could have had it go. And
Hmm.
I went to my developmental editor, and she was like, "Hey, like just send me three different ways this could go, and then we'll kind of decide from there."
Wow.
Luckily, I picked the one that I was leaning towards, but it
Oh,
also wasn't
yay.
that I started with, which was interesting.
Oh.
Yeah, so like I'm kind of, pantser versus plotter.
Hmm.
I'm I guess like a mix of both. I'm not a very good plotter. I would love to be like the best plotter in the world because I think it would
Yeah.
make crafting a lot easier.
Uh-huh.
It's literally like I kind of know the plot and then I just start typing and then it's crazy because I still ended up changing it, not
Wow.
drastically, but still enough where it was kind of a different book.
Wow.
Once I started writing. So I'm
Wow,
like,
that's amazing.
it would probably just change anyways, and then I would have been sad because I wasted all that time.
Oh my goodness. That is crazy. Well, so the book already has 4.7 stars on Goodreads with almost 200 reviews, which is insane for it not even being published yet. So how do you feel about like the feedback you've gotten? I know you mentioned being a little unsure about the criticism, but it seems like so far you're not getting a lot of horrible criticism. It seems like people are just loving the book and like excited for the series. So how do you feel about that rating?
Really good. I'm super surprised, to be honest. I never thought that, I could have never guessed that I would have this much support,
Mhm.
especially with a debut novel. Um, I I was nervous for sure, pressing send on those arcs. There was one person, my good friend Nat, who I actually met on, Bookstagram,
Mhm.
um, and I sent it to her first, and I sent it to her. It was last month, I believe. And I was just like, here, like, she's also like my street team admin, and she helps me with like all
Okay.
my stuff, and she's amazing. So I was like, here, like, just read it and tell me your like honest thoughts. Like, she
Yeah.
reads so much, like a lot of books. So I was kind of put a lot of faith in her.
Yeah.
And she like loved it. And so I was just like, okay, like that helped me kind of get the confidence to send it out to ARC readers. And
Yeah.
then, you mentally prepare yourself for like negative reviews because that's just realistic. Not
Yeah.
everybody's gonna like what you are writing and putting out
Of
there.
course.
However, I did not realize I was going to have so much support and so much like positive feedback. I
Yeah.
have had some negative, but I think that's just normal. It comes with the territory.
Yeah.
But I could not have hoped for a better outcome with from my ARC readers or my street team um,
Wow.
so far. Because I mean, I think after like a week, like my arcs were out for a week or something like that, and I had nearly like the 200 reviews already on Goodreads, and I was just like, wow,
Yeah.
like,
Mm.
it's crazy, and I'm very very fortunate. So
That's awesome. It's always an honor to be chosen for an ARC read because like I said earlier, you truly never know what you're going to get. And fortunately, unfortunately for me, there really aren't a lot of like spicy mafia romances that get sent out as ARCs. So when I saw this, I was kind of surprised because it's not a genre that sends out a lot of ARCs.
oh, really? I actually didn't even know that. So I'm into reading, but I was never into like the bookstagram stuff or
Yeah.
book talk. I didn't even know what like art readers were. Like I
Yeah.
had to learn all these things. So I've never art read. I mean, I have, I guess technically just a couple like author friend ones.
Yeah.
But I've never like before I had no idea. So that surprises me. I didn't know that like mafia
Wow.
romance authors didn't send a lot of arcs out.
Well, it might just be me and maybe the authors that I follow don't send them out, but I truly don't see a lot. And so as soon as I saw it, I was like, I want this book. I want a copy of this book. And I was super excited. So,
Hey, I'm
what you kind of told me your inspo into writing, but was there anyone in your life or any authors that like inspired Matteo specifically, or the book, or any of the characters in the book?
Um, this is such a lame answer, but like not really.
Yeah.
I don't have any like friends or anything in that I kind of drew inspiration from for any of the characters. I would say like if anything, I put a little bit of myself in like Luxton,
Yeah.
just for like feistiness.
Mhm.
I just love like a good comeback. I just love a girl that's gonna give her man some shit. And so to
Who's
me
gonna
that's
stab her man?
Yes. So to me, like I'm like that's and which by the way, so funny about that scene. I started writing it and it literally I had no idea she just whipped it out and I was like, okay, now I got to go back and kind of foreshadow this a little bit.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
That's my first true moment of wow, my character just kind of went with it and I just went along with for the
Let
ride.
it happen.
Um,
Let it happen.
yeah,
Don't ask questions.
exactly. Um, but yeah, so I didn't really pull anything from people. I do have, like favorite authors, but I wouldn't really say like our writing style is similar. Um, they're just like, Gabrielle Sands, she's a really good mafia romance writer.
Yeah.
And then like, I'm gonna say her name wrong but Katarina, it's Katharina. I don't
Yeah.
know. I said Kat Mora.
Yeah. Yep.
She is amazing. I love her writing. I love her books. So I would say that they're like goals in life. Like I love
Yeah.
them.
Think you're far behind. Like I said, I can't say it enough. I really like loved your writing style and your storytelling. It was just so easy to follow. And typically in books nowadays, I don't know what has changed with authors, but I feel like every book I read, there are just so many characters and so many different storylines or plot holes, or plot twists, but there wasn't too many characters and your writing was really easy to follow. And I just thought it was like executed really perfectly because there were twists and turns, but you weren't like you're not overwhelmed by everything that you're reading.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I would say like it's a very easy read. Like I'm not
Hmm.
like I said, I've never taken a creative writing class. Like I'm not skilled. I mean I appreciate that kind of level of writing. There's a girl that I was reading recently and I was like, wow, your writing is so descriptive. Like I'm not that. I would love to be, but like
No, but I
I'm
think you
not.
are.
Oh, oh, thank you. Yeah, but it's like I try to make it like my goal with Matteo is to make it fun,
Mhm.
easy, and something that makes you want to turn the pages instead of putting the book down.
Yeah.
Um, so that was I just when people ask me about it, I'm like, it's just a fun time. Like it's not a hard read. It's not
Yeah.
anything you have to think super, super hard on. It's just a fun time. And I think that is kind of what people need as an escape sometimes.
Yeah, it's so funny. I'm going to turn my Kindle on and try and go to the page. It's so funny that we're sitting here describing it as a fun read when the trigger warning page is so long. I posted this on my Instagram. I think you might have seen it. I posted this on my Instagram and I seriously had probably like 7 or 10 people respond and they were like, okay, sorry for the noise. That's my dog. But I had all these friends respond and they were like, after seeing the trigger warnings, and they were like, okay, drop the link. What book is this? We have to read it.
Yeah, I so trigger warnings are tough because you want to make sure you disclose all the information just in case because you
Mhm.
don't want to trigger anybody. So I
Yeah.
was nervous about trigger warnings. I was like I put in things I might have not have been had to put in just because I don't know. I just don't want to have anybody read the book and then they're like, uh-oh. But
Yeah. No,
yeah, so
I think it was perfect. I've read some books that seriously, I won't name names on authors, but they don't put any trigger warnings and then you get so deep into these books and you just like you don't see it coming and it's not that it's good or bad, it's just unpredictable and you're kind of taken aback because you didn't know that the book was going to go there. But I
yeah.
think the trigger warnings were perfectly fine with not like giving away any spoilers. So,
Yeah, I also was like, how do I do this without giving away spoilers? I remember
yeah.
there's actually a couple people who DM me and they're like, "Oh, is there cheating in here?" And I was like, "Oh, absolutely not." Like, I was like, I would 1000% put that in as a trigger warning. So I was like, no, no, no. So I'm glad that I disclosed some things, even though
Yeah.
maybe they weren't totally necessary. But I was like, please check it because the last thing I want to do is have people read it and have a bad time.
Yeah, yeah. So that kind of brings me to my next question was I have always wondered with dark romance authors, like how do you I think this is a loaded question, but like how do you even write spice? Like how do you I can't and we kind of talked about it before we started recording, but I feel like I would be so nervous to put things like that on words. Like I love to read it, but I'm like, where do they get the inspiration to write these? I think it's just our head, like our mental space thinks of these things, and maybe I'm wrong, but
Yeah, no, it honestly, it's just kind of in your head. I
Yeah.
was not uncomfortable writing spice scenes. I was uncomfortable reading it back.
Really?
Like, I was like, do, like send it off to people, like send it off to my editor, like no big deal. And then, but when I would read, like sometimes I'd be like,
Ugh,
Yeek! Like,
they feel like
and
your
then by
kids. You're
the
like,
time I
oh.
got yes, by the time I got to the end, I was like, okay, like this isn't that bad. Like, but I remember the
No.
first initial shock of after I had written it the first time, which was like easy. Like I was like, okay, I just like wrote it, whatever.
Uh-huh.
When I wrote it back, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is mortifying.
You're like,
Like,
who wrote that?
yeah, but I also thought that about the entire book. So I mean, there's also that. But yes, my scenes are my actually well, so as I'm writing, book two, my like concern is always like, oh my gosh, what if I don't have any like new spice scenes? I'm like, what if it's just all the same old
Yeah.
kind of spice scene? That was what I was like kind of worried about. But I mean,
Hmm.
I think it'll be okay. But yeah,
Yeah.
spice scenes are fun. I didn't write like too many. I didn't realize that this was I should have troped it, I guess, this way, but I've been told that it's a kind of a slow burn. And
Yeah.
so I didn't put that as a trope, but I guess I should have. So I didn't write like a ton of them. So I'm like, I think I'm okay. I think I can come up with some creative ones for this next one.
Yeah. Yeah, I always wonder that with this genre of author that has like 8 different series of mafia romance. I'm like, how are you even thinking of new spice scenes? Because sometimes and it does feel repetitive. And I'm like,
Mhm.
how do you guys think of these new ideas and make sure it's not because you can only write it so many different ways.
Yes. Yeah, I honestly, well, obviously, since I only have one book out, I'm not a very good judge there, but I'm hoping like different, that would be kind of a teaser there. Like I was gonna say like different, like maybe toys,
Yeah.
different places. Um, yeah, but honestly, I'm like it's gonna be repetitive. Like you can only use so many words for certain areas,
Yeah.
and I'm like I'm pretty sure I used. Are we allowed to say? I'm not gonna say inappropriate things. I don't know the
You
rules.
can. I go for it.
I'm like the vagina, like pussy's the only one that I really use. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
hope this doesn't come because I just don't really like a lot of the other ones. I mean, I might have thrown in like center,
Yeah.
like things like that, but like, and then you have like
Y-
dick and cock, and it's like length and shaft. I think were the only other two ones that I might have used. So I'm like, there's so many. I have a book like a thesaurus that's for like inappropriate things like that,
Oh,
and
that's
I just
hysterical.
couldn't get yeah, and I just couldn't get behind a lot of them. So I'm just like, well, hopefully people aren't obnoxious or like I'm saying I'm obnoxious with using the same words all the time.
No, I didn't think so at all. And I don't think I'm like a spy, what is the word I'm trying to think of? I'm not a picky spice reader, but sometimes it does get redundant.
Yes.
And I, again, thought that the way you wrote the spice was perfect. It wasn't too much, but it like gave you enough and it wasn't repetitive. So, yeah.
Yeah, I tried to use places. Obviously, I'm sure you
Yeah.
gather that. I tried to use places as like a way to mix it up. So like it wasn't just like every time they had sex, it was in bed. It was like, let's
Yeah.
do it here, let's do it there, let's do it there. And then I was like, well, maybe it won't be, repetitive if I just change the location.
Yeah, no, I thought it was great, and a lot of people are so uncomfortable reading Spice, but I thought it was great, and I thought you wrote it really well. It was, and it didn't take away from the plot; it just added to it. Like sometimes you read Spice scenes, and you're like, this was so unnecessary. Like why are we even reading this? But it was a little bit of a slow burn, and it just added to like their storyline and their love life, and yeah,
Yeah, I think I like slow burn. I mean, I didn't realize like I would like writing it, but I just like the tension, the buildup of like getting you to that point. I had a reader DM me and she was like, "You're kind of killing me with this slow burn," like joking. She was joking.
yeah.
She's actually on my street team, but she's like, "You're killing me," and I was just like, "I'm sorry, but it's great when you get
It
there."
is seriously, I prefer, especially in this genre, I prefer a slow burn because there have been books where it's like page 5, it jumps into a spy scene, and I'm like, okay, I don't even know anything about the characters yet. Like,
Yep.
seriously,
There have been books that I read and like, like you said that there's, some spice scenes in it where you feel like they don't really need to be. And I've gotten to the point where I'll like kind of skim over it because I'm like, I just want
yeah,
to know more about the plot or something like that.
exactly.
So I think like it's not, insanely spicy where I have, so many spice scenes, but I think it's a happy balance between spice and plot.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I didn't want to go into this thinking that like the spice scenes would take away from it or anything, but I just absolutely love the plot. I love their storyline. And like I said earlier, there were a couple of times where I genuinely was surprised by like the way it went and what happened. So I was just obsessed with the plot. And on the very last page, I was like, is this it? Are we done? I don't want to be done.
I know, I've gotten that a lot, and that's why I was hoping to have like, the drafts of the entire series at least done.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I was hoping to get it out a little sooner. It'll come out.
Yeah, and it's honestly the anticipation is so worth the wait, like the build up. And my very last question on here was, can you give us any insight as to book two? You don't have to tell me exactly, but I did put a note in the Q&A and I would love to know if I'm right. You don't have to tell me, but
Yes, you are right. I did see, yeah.
we won't ruin it for everyone else.
Yeah, I can confirm that the epilogue is a little sneak into what is to come for book two. So I
Yay.
didn't want to give too much away, but I think I gave just enough. Actually, I've been
Yeah.
told I left it on a cliffhanger, which I didn't. I was like, I'm sorry. Well, so in my head, I was thinking like cliffhanger would be like, not a happily ever after. To me, I was like,
Yeah.
cliffhanger would be like, okay, we're gonna go to the next book and we're gonna see the same couple type of that kind of series. So
Yeah.
I didn't really like put that in like the trigger warnings or anything like that. I just kind of left the epilogue as like a little sneak, and then people were like, "Oh my gosh, like you left us on a cliffhanger," and I'm like, "I'm sorry,
No,
I didn't mean to."
I disagree completely. I don't think it was a cliffhanger because, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think that these books, like, obviously you should read them in order, but I think maybe they could be read as standalone. So I don't think it would be a cliffhanger if you didn't find out, like, about Matteo and Luxton, but I think it was like the perfect build. I was okay with the ending.
I know I get mixed feedback, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I don't want anyone to think it was a cliffhanger. I just wanted it to
Yeah.
be a little sneak." So I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, I'm so excited for book two. Like I said, absolutely ate this book up. I read it super quickly and it's the perfect length. Like it's not too long of a book, but you pack everything into the exact amount of pages it should be. So I didn't think anything was like unnecessary or there were any like missing plot holes. I think it wrapped up really well and the plot was just beautiful.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think because I like to read like 300 through
Yep.
50-ish kind of books. I mean, I'll
Me
go
too.
into like 400 because like Gabrielle Sands, I think her most recent duet, like they're both probably in the 400s. Like I'll
Yeah.
read it, but for me, like my attention span is just kind of in the 300s. So
Me
when
too.
writing it, I was like 1000%. I could never write like, I mean, I think Mateo was like 87,000 words. I could
Wow.
not write 100, 120, 150. Like, I don't know how people do it. I,
No.
sh-
No,
I,
I filled out an ARC form the other day and it was like, are you okay knowing that this book is, I think it was like 180,000 words. And I was like, I don't know if I'm okay with that.
I don't even know how many pages that is.
I
Like
think
that,
it was like, I think it might have been like 700. Maybe I'm just guessing there, but it was a lot. And I was like, I don't know if I'm okay with that. Like it might take me months to finish, but I'll read it.
yeah, I struggle. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I struggle with, 500.
Yeah,
Like,
me too.
I have to really be committed, and especially now that I'm writing, I really don't have a lot of time to read, which kind of is unfortunate, but
Yeah.
I don't have the time to do it. And so for me, I'm like, shorter the better at this point. I mean,
Yeah,
I want more than, I think 300. Like I said, I think 300 is a good amount. So
me
writing, I'm just
too.
my attention span's like, I gotta wrap this up.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think that's the perfect length for a book.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you again for joining me today and talking about Mateo. I can't say it enough. I absolutely love this book. I can't wait for book number two and three. So, thank you again for joining me and talking about this book. And everyone, if you are listening to this, make sure you put this book on your TBR. It comes out September 25th, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Awesome.
thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. You popped my cherry for like face-to-face interviews.
Yay, I'm so excited. So I will have this video up on YouTube here shortly, hopefully within the next week. And then, like I said, the book will be out I guess it's in 2 weeks
Yeah,
around
it's
that time from
exactly
today.
a half. Yeah,
Yeah.
crazy. It's the final countdown, and I'm just like, well, we're doing it.
Well, it has, I think the traction that you've gotten has been so amazing. Like I said earlier, almost 200 reviews with almost a 5-star rating across the board on Goodreads. So I wish you the best, and I am so excited to keep up with your writing journey and you as an author. So thank you again.
Thank you so much. I truly appreciate it.